When you first learn algebra, you are pretty much only working with lines and linear equations. You learn to follow steps like these to solve by isolating x. All of that is correct, but it teaches you habits that do not work as well when we are introduced to x squared equations. For quadratic equations, we kind of have the opposite goal. Instead of isolating x, we need to bring everything toward the x so that one side of the equation is equal to 0. That lets us solve by factoring. And here's an example. We start with a messy equation with a very obvious x squared. Now we could factor the left side pretty easily, but it won't do us any good because the right side is too complex. First, we need to simplify this equation by moving terms so that one side is equal to 0. I would add 4x and 2 to both sides. If we keep the similar terms together, we would get x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. Now we can factor the left side by finding numbers that multiply to -2 and add to +1. If you need to, make a little side chart to test out the possible combinations. Once you've got them, you'll have the factored equation, x minus 1 times x plus 2. And since the equation is equal to 0, we can use the zero product property to set each of these factors equal to 0 separately. Basically, it's like we turned our one big equation into two small equations, which are both much easier to solve. I like to turn the equation into a little chart. Solve each of the small equations by isolating x, which brings us back to the normal, more comfortable linear algebra that we first learned in school. In this case, we get that x equals 1 and x equals -2. We won't always have two solutions, but you often will, which is why isolating x in the beginning wouldn't have worked. Another good rule of thumb is to try your best to create simple quadratics where the squared term has no coefficient, no number in front. In this case, we would move the terms so that one side of the equation is 0, just like we did before. Add 3x to both sides and subtract 5 from both sides to get -2x squared minus 2x plus 40 equals 0. There are ways of factoring this equation as is, but I would much rather do a equals 1 factoring if possible. And if I divide every term by -2, I can get the x squared term to that easier place. Just don't lose the negative. We would have x squared plus x minus 20 equals 0. Now that a equals 1, we can do a equals 1 factoring. The numbers that multiply to -20 and add to +1 are -4 and +5. So our factored form is x minus 4 times x plus 5. Set each piece equal to 0 and solve to get that x equals 4 and x equals -5. This won't always work out so nicely, but in general, if you have an x squared, you should try your best to get everything equal to 0 and to get the x squared term so that its coefficient is equal to 1. Remember to like this video if it helped, comment if you have a question, and subscribe to this channel so that you never miss a new video. Thanks for watching!